Here we go. Today's speaker, Kevin Marr. He's the lead children's pastor at Central Christian Church in Phoenix, Arizona. They have 5 campuses. He oversees 20 staff who oversee about 1,000 volunteers, who oversee about 3,000 kids on a weekend. More importantly than the numbers, though, I just saw in our coaching session his heart for young people and families, and I think you're really, really going to enjoy today. I would get your hands, notebooks, computers, whatever, ready to take notes. So please give an institute welcome to Kevin Marr.
It was my sophomore year of high school, and I had just gotten my list of my teachers for the year, and I noticed that my U.S. history teacher was a teacher named Mr. Contrada. Now, here's the thing about Mr. Contrada. He was our high school basketball coach. Now, I'm not sure what you all think, and if anyone in here is a high school basketball coach, I do not mean to offend you. But when I saw a high school basketball coach as my U.S. history teacher, I thought, this class is going to be an easy A. Because all basketball coaches are there to do is coach basketball. They don't really care about learning. They don't really care about teaching. They're just there because they coach basketball. Now that was my perception. And so I was sitting in the first day of class, junior year, U.S. history, sitting there eagerly anticipating, and Mr. Contrada was late. Now, at my school, probably similar to a lot of your high schools, we had that 15-minute rule. If they weren't there 15 minutes after class started, it gave you free permission to leave. So we all started the 15-minute countdown, and we're waiting to see if Mr. Contrada would show up on time. Almost before the 15-minute rule ended, the door swings open, and Mr. Contrada comes crawling into the room. Yeah, he had my attention. What is this crazy maniac doing? Shh. They're coming. Who's coming? Rushes behind the podium, dips his head down, and pops straight up. Bang, 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 bang. Whoa. What is he doing? And he screams, "The British are coming! The British are coming! Everyone, run, hide, get your guns, the British are coming!" He starts enacting the battles of Lexington and Concord right then, right there. And I was like, I am in. I love this stuff. Here's the thing. Before that day, I was kind of so-so about school. I went because I had to play baseball. I went because my parents made me. Learning was kind of okay. I liked learning, but school was for the birds. It was boring. Homework, I hated. No, don't even get me started on homework. I hated homework. I just didn't really find a need for school until first hour, first day, U.S. history, Mr. Contrada. He changed everything for me that day. He totally blew up my perception of learning. He blew up my perception of school. You see, before that day, I was born and raised in the church. Before that day, I went to Sunday school every day of my life. Well, every Sunday of my life. We were there. If the church was open, my parents had me there, and I could tell you all the Bible stories. I could rattle them off. I knew forwards and backwards. It didn't mean a thing to me until that day. You see, stories came to life. That moment, he popped up from behind the podium and starts bang, bang, caught my attention. It changed everything for me. My perception was shattered. It threw me into disequilibrium. I'm going to do a little bit of a side note right here. A little bit of side note. This one's for free. Disequilibrium. Learn to be comfortable in disequilibrium. when you're a little bit off, when something throws you off, when something you don't agree with, when something just is kind of out there, out of the norm. Learn to be comfortable in disequilibrium, because that's when you learn the most and that's when you grow the most. He threw me into disequilibrium that moment he popped up and started bang, bang, bang. It changed everything. How I learned, how I studied, how I read the Bible. I knew those stories. They didn't mean much to me. Now they come to life. Now words on a page jump out at me. I can't help but see David and Goliath standing before me. I can't help but watch as Peter's walking on the water, and I visualize it and I picture it and I put myself there in the moment. I devoured learning. I devoured growing after that day. He changed it all. You see, before that moment, I would have told you that how you prepare, what you know, is more important than how you present it. I don't believe that's true anymore. My perception before that day is knowledge is more important than presentation. My reality turned into how you present something is just as or more important than what you're presenting. I'll say it again. How you present something is just as, or maybe even quite possibly more important than actually what you're saying. Why? If no one hears a word you're saying, did you ever even say it? Does it matter what you said if no one heard it? If it didn't sink in, if it didn't fall between your ears and rattle across your brain, if it has zero impact on a single person that's in the room, does it even matter that you said it? Does it matter what you said? My perception before that day was, no, it's more important what you say. What you say is the most important. I learned that day how you present something is more important. Today, my topic is about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's perception versus reality. Perception versus reality. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to jump all the way to the end of my talk, and I'm going to give you my conclusion. So here it is. Perception is reality. Perception is reality. Now, we often think that those two words are in competition of each other, that can't be true. Perception's one thing, and then there's reality is the truth. Perception, I looked it up in the dictionary. It's really simple. You all know this. It's a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something. A mental impression. It's an idea. It's a thought. It's something that someone has. And then there's reality. Those are two separate things. They live in two separate worlds. I'm going to suggest today that if you're going into ministry, if you at all think that ministry is where God is calling you, you need to learn how to bring those things together. Because perception is reality. What do I mean by that? How someone understands and interprets you, their mental impression of you, is the reality you must live in. How someone understands and interprets you, their mental impression of you, is the reality that you have to live in. I hope that through my experiences and through some of my stories, and I'll be able to help you understand that. As Andy said, I'm the lead children's pastor at Central Christian Church. We're based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and we have 5 campuses, and we minister to somewhere around 12,000 folks on a weekend. That's all just information. I've been there for 16 years as a children's pastor. I graduated, I attended Hope International University, which is now a part of this great institution. I graduated Hope International University, and I thought I was going to change the world. Now, here's the thing. I had no desire to go into ministry. I was telling a group of folks that I was meeting with today, I literally did not want to be in ministry. I had watched as my mom was in ministry, and I'd watched as she was a youth pastor at my church, and I'd watched some of the stuff that she struggled with and she went through, and I thought, not interested in that. I have no desire to be a part of that. And then God called me up on the phone one day through the children's pastor at my church and said, hey Kevin, would you be interested in coming out and doing an internship? What turnship? And who are you, by the way? And why are you calling me? Hey, I'm the children's pastor, Central Christian Church, Arizona. Would you be interested in coming out doing an internship? All right, let me be clear with you. I will do an internship because I want something to do for the summer, but I have no desire to go into ministry. I've seen how this whole ministry thing works firsthand, and I'm not interested in it. Just not interested, thanks, but no thanks. All right, hey, cool, come on down, do this thing, and we'll see what God does in your heart. I came down to be the worship pastor for children, to be the children's worship pastor, and about halfway through, my boss at the time says, hey, I just need you to know that I think God's calling you to something bigger. That God's calling you into something greater than what you thought. And by the end of that time, I'd said I had given up fighting it and said, okay, fine, I'll do this. I'll be the pastor, a children's pastor. I'll do it. I'll go into ministry. So as I graduated college and as I thought through all this stuff, and I remember sitting down one day with the senior pastor at my church back at home, and he was telling me, hey, Kevin, tell me about your experiences out there at Hope. It was Pacific Christian College at the time. Tell me about your experiences out there. And it's like, hey, you ought to do this, and we got to do this, and you got to do this. We're going to change the world. And I thought I was going to change the world, and I had all these great plans and all these great ambitions, and I didn't know what to expect. And so I started as a children's pastor. I was a single dude. I was 20 years old, working as a children's pastor. I was given the responsibility to lead an event. It was called a spring retreat, where we were going to take 4th, 5th, and 6th graders up into the mountains in Arizona, and we're just going to draw them closer to God. And it was my first real big event that I got to lead, and so I thought I was really cool. And I was going to do some really awesome stuff. I was going to change the world, and I was going to do some really cool stuff. And so I was sitting down with a group of guys, and we were planning these activities and these events. And one of the activities that we planned was we were going to build houses out of cardboard with these 9, 10, 11-year-olds. And we were going to set them up with tape and cardboard and paint them all up. And it was going to be an awesome team-building experience. And we were going to teach them about how Jesus is our foundation and all these great Bible lessons and through cardboard and duct tape. And at the end of it, we were going to set them up on this big, gigantic field. And then what we were going to do is we were going to give each team a water balloon launcher and a bag of potatoes. And what we were going to do is we were going to have them line up in groups, and what they were going to do is as a team, they were going to take these water balloon launchers and these potatoes, they were going to pull them back, and they were going to launch the potatoes and try to knock down their opponents' houses, which sounds like a crazy awesome idea to a 20-year-old dude who just wants to have fun in ministry, right? And it was awesome. If you've ever seen a potato whizzing through the air at hundreds of miles an hour, just ripping holes in the cardboard, I mean, I was beaming. Look at this awesomeness I've created. This is good. Oh, it was going so good. And all the while, there's a beautiful lady. Her name is Nisha, still is. She went along as a parent helper, and she's a beautiful lady, and she's a mom first, and then a mom second, and a mom third, and so she's always momming, and we need moms around. They help us not do stupid things, and so she was standing at the sidelines, and she was like, "Is this a good idea, Nisha? What could go wrong?" It's 9, 10, 11-year-olds and potatoes and whizzing them across the fields. And we're telling them not to go on the other side, and we're being very careful. What could go wrong? Just enjoy yourself, Nisha. This is amazing. And it was, until this sweet little girl. She was super sweet. She still is. She's still sweet. I was standing next to Nisha when this happened, by the way, which is perfect timing. And we're just sitting there watching as they're doing their thing, and this sweet little girl bends back, and the adults, we had taught them how if they leaned all the way back and laid on the ground, they could get even further stretch on the rubber bands. I mean, super awesome. That's great stuff to teach. And so we got them all leaning back, and she lets go, and because she's pulling her up, and she lets go of the water balloon launcher with a potato in there, uncooked, hard potato. And for some reason, water balloon launchers are called water balloon launchers because they're supposed to launch water balloons. That's what they've been tested on. That's what they were designed for. Apparently, there's a thing with potatoes where because of the size, the weight, and the distribution and all, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm a children's pastor. And the little thing that clamps it in didn't open to fire out the potato. It kept it in really good. And then I don't know if, again, I'm not a scientist. If there's a science major in here, you know what happens about, in motion and keeps going in motion and all that other stuff, right? Well, it opened up right into her chest. And she just goes rolling back. I was freaked out. Again, I'm 20 years old. Or 22, I don't know. And I'm looking at everyone staring at me. By the way, Nisha was too. If you've ever, and I recommend you not have to do this, if you've ever had to be on the phone call, on the other end of a phone call of a mom who just had a potato whipped who knows how fast into her chest, and she's got this big, gigantic welt on her chest. If you ever had to call the mom and say, we had an accident with little Susie. It was an accident. We accidentally did something really stupid. Her question to me is, are you an idiot? And my answer was, unfortunately, yes. I know that doesn't make this any easier for Susie. But yeah, I'm an idiot. I had a really good friend of mine. He, after that event, after the dust kind of settled, he's a mentor of mine. Side note, this one's for free too. If you're not in a mentor relationship, get into one. And I mean, if you're not being mentored by someone, you need to be mentored by someone. And just like that, if you're not mentoring someone, you need to mentor someone. You learn a lot through mentor experiences. You learn a lot from someone speaking into your life by being vulnerable, by opening up. And you learn a lot by giving of yourself to someone. So if it's not a requirement, please do that. Find a mentor and find someone that you can pour into. So I was sitting down across the table at lunch with one of my mentors, and I was trying to figure this whole thing out and kind of doing damage control. And he said, hey, Kevin, if you're going to be successful here, not only at Central but in ministry, you need to understand something. All right, fire away. You need to understand, you're 20 years old, you're single, you don't have a family. Do you think that that says something about you to people? Do you think that parents are making judgments on who you are based on those simple facts? And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Easy there. Let's back this train up. Dude, that's not fair, first of all. I don't think that's biblical, second of all. And third of all, that's ridiculous. They don't even know who I am, and they're just judging me based on a single guy, 20 years old. I don't think so, and I'm not okay with that. His comment to me was, I don't care. It doesn't matter what you think. Quite frankly, none of that matters. You see, I had to learn that people were making judgments on me. By the way, I was reinforcing some of them with my ridiculous behaviors, like potato launching. But people were making judgments. People were making assumptions about me. By the way, they were making judgments and assumptions about my ministry. By the way, they were making judgments and assumptions about my Jesus because of who I was, regardless of whether I liked it or not, regardless of whether it's fair or not. That, my friends, was my reality. I was working in children's ministries. Children's ministries are full of moms. He said, Kevin, a parent, a mom, a first-time mom, they don't really care about any of that other stuff. What they want to know, are you going to take care of their precious bag of DNA? This baby that they grew inside of them, that they love unconditionally, that they love like Jesus loves? Are you going to take care of them? Are you going to think and act and behave the way I would as a parent towards my child? He told me, this is what they care about. They don't care that you went to Bible college. They don't care that you grew up in the church. They don't care that you know all the Bible stories. They don't care that you know how to teach. They don't care about any of that stuff. I said again, that's not fair. And he said again, I don't care. It doesn't matter. He told me this. He said, here's the thing that you have to understand. There's a perception about you that you have to fight through. You see, you're expecting to be respected because of your job title. Because at Central Christian Church, we've given you the pastor title, children's pastor, that everyone's going to respect you and they're going to listen to you and they're going to follow you. Respect is earned, always. You have to understand that. Respect is earned, always. It's always earned. Some people will give you the benefit of the doubt. Respect is always earned. That's not fair. I don't care. I learned right away I'd better think different. I had better start learning to think like a parent if I'm going to be successful as a children's pastor. I had better start thinking and caring about the things that they care about. I had better start processing through things differently. You see, I would be out of ministry in a heartbeat if I didn't change something immediately. People make decisions about you before they ever meet you. They make decisions about your Jesus before you ever open your mouth. Your reputation, your perception, it always precedes you. It'll always go before you. Always. I'm going to go back to my statement. How people perceive you defines and determines your reality. How people perceive you defines and determines your reality. Newsflash, this is a big deal in ministry. It is a big deal in ministry. My wife is here. I'm going to tell a little story real quick. She doesn't know I'm doing this, so I might need a ride to the airport in a little bit if anyone's free. So my wife is a mom. We have a beautiful 5-year-old son. His name's Carson. We had to have a moment a couple years back when my wife kept saying, I'm not going to take our son Carson to the children's ministry classrooms. What? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take Carson to the children's classroom. You understand what I do, right? I'm the children's pastor. It's kind of a big deal it's kind of a big deal that we as a family support the ministry. Huh? Yeah. Will you please? Nope, not going to do it. You see, my wife is a mom first. She was concerned. Do the people in these rooms care about my son? Do they know what's going on in my son? Are they going to be able to respond and react and deal with my son? I don't know that person who's standing at the door. I'm going to make assumptions about that person that's standing at the door. That I'm going to hand over this child over to them? Not a chance. Perception. It matters. I have several members on my team. They all have nose rings. I don't know if any of you have not all of them. A couple of them have nose rings. If you have nose rings, I love them. They're fantastic. She has one too. I might really need a ride home. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be a long flight. Good thing we flew Southwest because you don't have to sit together on Southwest. I didn't think about how important that was until just now. So I have some staff members that have nose rings, and one day I was sitting across the table from one of them, and she was frustrated. And I said, hey, I noticed you have a nose ring. Duh. You're a perceptive boss. I said, have you ever thought about what that nose ring says to a young mom? What do you mean? Have you ever thought about what a nose ring says to a mom? What message are you sending? Are you sending, I'm going to take care of your baby? Are you sending, I'm responsible? What are you sending? Does that matter? Do you care? I'm not telling you to take out your nose ring, I told her. I think the nose ring is awesome. Great fashion statement. It matches your clothes, all the stuff. But have you thought about what the perception is that nose ring's causing? Have you thought that might be a barrier between you and ministry? Here's the thing. What's more important? Making a point or making disciples? What's more important? Your fashion statement or your Jesus? Your individuality or your God? What's more important? I'm not telling you to take out your nose ring, I said. Leave your nose ring in. You just have to understand that people are making perceptions about you, and that's your reality. If you don't understand that you are going to fail, by the way, she still has the nose ring in. By the way, she's super successful. It's not about the nose ring, it's about understanding the message you're sending. And if you don't understand that and you don't live in your reality, you're blind. You are ignoring the reality. You're ignoring the fact that people are making judgments. You must recognize what perception you are giving off and live in that reality. You cannot ignore it. Is it your hair? Mohawk, purple. I've had staff members with purple hair. Is it tattoos? I have a tattoo. Is it the fact that you drink alcohol? Is it the fact that whatever? What's your perception? If you don't understand that, you're ignoring your reality. People are always making decisions about you, your ministry, your Jesus, and by how you present yourself. If I didn't change things, I wouldn't be here today. If I didn't start thinking differently, I would have been gone a long time ago. I'm a children's pastor. I have to start thinking like a parent. That applies for every area of ministry, by the way. It's not just children's pastors have to worry about perception. Student pastors, worship pastors, missions pastors, lead pastors, campus pastors. The list goes on and on and on. We're all working with people who are all bringing in their stories, their perceptions, and they're defining your reality. Ministry leadership is often about perception management. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul says, give me a second, sorry. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, you all probably know it by heart. It's been a long time since I've been in Bible college, so I don't have it memorized. He says this, I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. That's what it's about. Paul understood that I have to understand the people and how they perceive me and how they relate to me. And if I don't, they won't hear Jesus. If I don't, they won't give me a chance to share Jesus with them. Your perception, how people perceive you, is your reality. I'm going to pray. Will you pray with me? God, our prayer today is that everything we say and everything we do would point to you, point to Jesus. God, I'm sorry for the times where I've gotten in the way. I'm sorry for the times when I've allowed my pride or my point to block people from seeing Jesus, for my ignorance, for my arrogance. God, teach me how to more accurately reflect your son, Jesus. God, show me. We want more of you and less of us. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Good stuff. I want to talk just briefly. We'll just do a little interview here. I'm glad you touched on those other ministry positions. Let's be more specific. Let's just make it blatantly obvious, right? So, what's something that a youth pastor might not be thinking about that they have to be thinking about?
That's a great question. Everyone's judging you, and I hate the word judging, and I hate the word fair, but everyone's judging you based on how you present yourself. Presentation is everything in this first glance. I had a student of ours who came through, and she had bright purple hair. Bright purple hair. She was going into youth ministry, and I told her, hey, that's such cool hair. I love it. And she told me it relates well with kids. I said, that's fantastic. How does that relate with parents? Well, not so good. Well, I'm not telling you to change your hair color, but do you think it's important? Do you think it's important to relate to parents in ministry with students? Well, yeah. You probably should understand that and know what that message is you're saying. Again, I didn't tell her to color her hair different. And I'm not telling you all to change something. I'm telling you that if you don't understand that, if you don't understand the message that's being sent to parents in the youth ministry, parents are important in youth ministry. We tend to think it's all about the kids, which, by the way, it's a lot about the kids. But parents are important. Building relationships with parents, building rapport with parents is an important piece of ministry. You need to connect with them. You need to be able to earn their trust, to show you're responsible.
Yeah, a lot around the dress and the presentation. I mean, and so like how ripped your jeans are, even, or if you were to always wear a hat. I mean, these seem like simple things to us, but it will. It's not that you shouldn't necessarily. It's about the perception of folks over time and.
Yeah. So there's a confusion. The confusion is, so are you telling me not to be myself?
Right.
Nope. I am not telling you not to be yourself. I think Jesus calls us to be ourself. I'm asking you to understand your perception. I'm asking you to realize that if you always wear ripped jeans and you're wearing those to an interview, the perception that you're giving off. Like you're telling a story before you open your mouth. We all tell stories before we ever open our mouth. People always make judgments.
So, what if you have there's a perception that's wrong, maybe, and you're actually right. You know, the ministry person, you're right, and there's some kind of even so maybe your supervisor tells you, well, but you have to, and they're like, but I'm right, and maybe you actually are right. Okay, what do you do in that situation where you're actually right, but you see what I'm driving at?
I absolutely do. It's such a good question.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, it happens more than once.
Yes.
I'll say it again. What's more important, being right or the gospel? For me, every time the gospel wins. Every time. The first thing I would tell you is humility. If you are not at all prone to humility, learn that skill. Start developing that trait. Learn the ability to say, I'm sorry. Learn the ability to say, it's okay. Learn the ability to be humble and not have to be right. And just say, hey, we can agree to disagree. Or I understand your point of view. To say I understand is going a long way for folks. Humility.
Yeah, so let's camp there for just a second. What are some ways you're approaching a parent, a supervisor, or somebody else that you having some kind of tension with, or just a disagreement, or maybe it's not a disagreement yet, but you actually disagree and you want to find out why they believe what they believe. How do you go about approaching them? Like, what kind of language do you use, and how do you approach that situation?
The first thing I always say is people want to be heard at its core. People want to be heard. They don't always need to be right. And so the first thing that I always say, and I always advise my team to say is hey, just teach me, show me, tell me what I don't understand. Help me understand what I don't understand. If you come to someone with that posture, help me understand what I don't understand, it automatically lowers the tension. It lowers the fight, and it becomes a conversation. Help me understand. Doesn't mean it always ends the perfect way, But if you come at it with humility, help me understand, help me to learn, it almost always ends positive.
Yeah, I can remember being in situations where I was seeking first to understand, or I caught myself and I was about to just blast my idea, right? This is the way it's going to be. And I said something like, help me understand, or why do you think that, or whatever. And in the response, I got an education, which meant that I never actually told my idea because I didn't know something that changed everything.
Yeah.
So you'll learn something, too, in the midst of all that.
Well, and here's the thing about ministry that I've learned is ministry is full of feedback, which I saw that Sheila Heen's coming to do a thing about feedback. Ministry is full of feedback. You are always going to get feedback in ministry. You need to learn how to take that well. You need to learn to love feedback. You need to learn to sift through criticism. You need to learn to hear criticism. Doesn't mean all criticism is good, and it doesn't mean all criticism is valuable, but you need to learn how to hear it and respond to it. I get emails regularly. I could forward them to your all's inbox if you want to take them for me, about how people and how parents show me the error in my ways. And trust me, there's plenty of errors in my way. The first key is humility, understanding that, seeking to understand what they're coming from, where they're coming from, and what they're trying to tell me, and then learning how to respond to that appropriately.
Yeah, email. We won't get into that, but we could.
Yeah, days.
For days and days. Hey, what were some maybe other benchmarks of self-awareness that you noticed as you grew older? Is there anything you can think of while you're thinking? I'll tell a quick story. Like, for example, when I was in college, I was dating this girl, and we were all hanging out in the lobby with our friends, and I was like goofing around with everybody, being the normal, just being myself. And afterwards, my girlfriend said, "You're such a flirt." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm just being myself." But the perception of the group was that Andy was flirtatious, or even just her. But I thought I was just being myself. So it was like a self-awareness, like, okay, my perception of myself and their perception of me is different, and I need to act differently so that it doesn't come off that way.
Yeah, this is easy for me. I'm an introvert by nature, and so when I come to work, I typically go to do work. It's weird. There's other people that don't do that, apparently, and so I was told often that, Kevin, you're mean, you're disconnected, and you're an angry person. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't feel like I'm any of that. And I remember my boss told me this. It was in a review that he told me that, and I was stunned, to be frank. I thought this isn't fair. Like, that's not me. Like, I love everyone. I'm a Jesus follower. I don't know. Like, what's the deal? I'm just here to do work. And I had to understand that how I behaved, the look on my face when I was walking up and down the halls was telling people a story. They were making a perception about me. They had told, I was telling them a story that I'm a mean, disconnected, don't approach Kevin. Don't approach Kevin. I had to change that.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Hey, we haven't done this in a while. I'm going to open this up. Does anybody have a burning question? They're like, I've got to ask Kevin. He's so smart and brilliant about this. Because he really is. Honestly, we were talking earlier in the coaching sessions, and there were some really good. Maybe we can go there if no one has a question. Anyone know? Yes, I see that hand. Yeah.
I just took him myself. Which, by the way, just a side note, he got sick the first day he came back. I told you! Oh, it was the worst. That's a great question that came up.
So let me repeat the question so that we all can.
So what did I have to do to change that perception, specifically with my wife? But one of the questions that came up is, how do you change that perception in general? For me, it's understanding that that's perception and then getting way out in front of it. And so I have to understand what is causing that perception with first-time moms. First-time moms, they don't trust me. They don't think that I know what I'm doing. They're concerned about their health of their baby. And so I'm going to start answering all those questions before they start asking them. So I try to make sure our environments are as clean as possible. I try to make sure that the people that are standing at the doors are prepared and ready for them, and that they're the same one every single time. So they can trust us, they can build a relationship with us. I'm trying to answer the questions before they get asked. But I can't ever do that if I don't understand that's a perception. The perception is they're not going to be able to take care of my child.
It's good. Other questions? That's a good question. Anybody else? You were talking, let's kind of go down this, like you're talking about the systems you've put in place now to get out in front of these perceptions. And I'm trying to remember back as we were talking in the coaching about one of the other systems you had mentioned. But I can't think of it right now, so it's awkward all of a sudden.
It was really good, I promise.
Normally it comes to me,
it was
at the last
life-changing.
second, but who was in there? Someone in that first coaching session I was sitting in. Remind me.
No one wants to admit it.
No one's going to do it. All right.
Call them out.
Let's just boil this off. You've got 20 staff and 5 campuses, and there it is. I just remembered. So you were talking about how you make sure that the environment and the execution. Well, you didn't say environment, but the execution of an idea is the same across campuses, and if that one campus can't pull off an idea, none of the campuses do it.
Correct.
Why is that? Talk about that whole process.
So we have, again, 5 campuses. They're diverse in their makeup as far as the campus makeup, the congregation. They're diverse in where they meet. One of them meets in a really gigantic, large new facility. One of them meets in a high school. And so there's just a variety of that. And one of the things that we talk about all the time in our team is if it doesn't work at one campus, it doesn't work at any of them. The idea is that we all win when we all win, that we're not going to sacrifice the good. We're not going to sacrifice one campus for the good of all the rest of them, that we're all going to win together. And so what we do is we sit down in a room every week, and all of us from all of our campuses, we sit down and we talk about it, and we say, is this good enough? And will this work for all of us? And the thing I challenge us, I would challenge you all, is your first idea is probably not the best one. To keep diving in, to keep going, to keep trying to find out what is the best, and making sure that you're thinking through things as deeply as you possibly can. If it's not good enough for one of us, it's not good enough for all of us, is the way the way we've approached it, to make sure that we're delivering the same experience, whether you're in our campus that's meeting in an auditorium, which I was telling them. One of them's a brand new facility. It's gorgeous. It's top of the line. And then one of them meets in a high school auditorium. And one day they show up, which I don't mean to be crass, but a high school student had literally pooped in the middle of the walkway. There's a little bit of a difference in the environment, right? But the experience that we go for is we want to make sure that experience is the same exact experience no matter where you show up. That we're going to value and we're going to invest in each one of them all the same. Is that?
Yeah. And so cement that with that story you told about how the guy was reading the script and it couldn't get done. Because because in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, but there's so many variances and maybe you need to tweak some things and turn it, but you have to be careful of what this story you're about to tell us.
Yeah, so I was visiting a church, and I won't say where or what it was, and I'd visited the hub, I guess is what they called it, and it was a beautiful program, and it was excellent, fantastic. I loved it. I wanted to give my life to Jesus over it right then and there, and it was well done. And then I went to what they would call one of their satellite campuses. And I was standing in one of the children's room, and the well-intentioned gentleman was standing up there, and he was reading the script for the lesson. And he said, and now we're going to play so-and-so game. And he stopped, and he put the paper down, and he said, well, we don't really have that game here, and so we're going to skip that. He put the paper back up and kept reading. And my heart broke. He was totally disconnected. He was totally separated from and these kids that were here to have ministry now feel like they're missing out, now feel like they're less than. he was not owning that. And so at that moment, I said, like, I want to make sure that that never happens in children's ministries, that we give the absolute best, that every single person owns every single thing, that we're always giving our best for every single group of kids that ever shows up.
Yeah, because if you can't, if they couldn't execute that there, why did they put it on the script, right? So
If they couldn't do it, yep.
There wasn't somehow a collaborative environment enough for them to understand that that wasn't going to happen, or that they didn't get the right materials or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, it's good. Any last? Yes, go ahead. Repeat the question for me.
Yes, I believe the question is how do you keep everyone on the same page with perception that's being given out? Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I don't know if I'll try to answer it appropriately. No, it's a great question. And if I'm not, stop me and bring me back. I believe that understanding perception is the first, is understanding that, and then learning how to live with that and work through that. Everyone is different. One of the things I said earlier is I had to come to a point where I used to think, I used to get so frustrated with moms, because moms are very good at pointing at things, and especially to a young single dude, and moms were telling me all the time what I was doing wrong, and I would like, these moms are crazy, and I used to put them in categories. I learned that was a horrible thing. And I learned that through several reasons in several ways, but I learned that what I was doing was actually a disservice to myself more than it was to them. I was putting them in a category that wasn't necessarily fair or true, and so I need to learn to accept people as people and then learn how to interact and deal with them. I think it's understanding that as a group of people that we are different, but at a core, we're the same.
So if you were to get all your volunteers together, there would be a very diverse look in the room, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But they've been trained in a way, maybe, that you're saying they know, and you've got the right people in the right places, so that the perception when you bring your child to the ministry that this is a welcoming place. It may
Absolutely.
not be. It may not look the same, but it feels the same.
Absolutely.
Potentially. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Through consistency of message. So if we're delivering a consistent message all the time, through relationships, so by having the same people, by how you prepare, by how we present ourselves. Presentation's a gigantic issue, and how the rooms, I told the groups how they smell, the noise, all of those things are creating perceptions. So it doesn't matter if it's an elderly lady standing at the door or a young high school boy standing at the door. We're consistently casting the same message over and over and over again, understanding that the perception is when my high school boy is standing at the door, I have to realize what that's saying to a parent. So I'm going to have to go above and beyond to cast a vision that we know we're taking care of. We're going to make sure their safety and security is taken care of. They're going to know that from top to bottom, every single step along the way. It's a consistency. It's through everything. One of the things we talk about is everything speaks. Everything speaks. Everything. So your clothes, the room, the stains on the carpet, that speaks. It speaks to a parent who's going to be dropping their kids off who's crawling on the floor. Wait, you want me to drop my kid off on a floor that has stains all over it? Everything speaks. The signage, the smell, poopy diaper smell in the rooms. Are they changing their diapers? Everything speaks.
We could do this all day, but we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Thanks for being here. Let's thank Kevin one more time.
Thank you all.
2 weeks from today, Justin Moxley on church planting. There's some things we need to know. There's some things that he's been doing this a long time. Justin actually heads up Stadia, which is a church planting group. And so he will be with us just to talk it through some of the things, the challenges, the opportunities, the point, how, why, all that stuff. That's in 2 weeks, so we'll hope to see you then. Thanks for coming. You're dismissed.